Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level grammar lesson. We're continuing to talk about modal verbs. This time we're going to be talking about the modal verbs of requests that include would, could, can, may, and might. So a request is when you ask for something. So they're both an informal and a formal way to ask. So informal is can I borrow your book? Formal would be could I borrow your book? And we're often informal, excuse me, with family and friends. And we are usually formal with everyone else, like teachers, doctors, and people we do not know well. Okay, so choose the best request for this picture. May I go to the restroom? Can I have another cookie? Could I borrow some money? So probably, may I go to the restroom? Because it looks like he's in school, he's raising his hand, and so he'd want to use a more formal request for his teacher. So polite requests using I. Um, Here are the different structures. We start with the modal, then the verb, and then whatever the request is. So with informal, you could say, can I go to the park? Formal would be, could I leave early today? And then more formal still would be, may I take this newspaper? And then very formal is, might I borrow some money? And might is very, very formal, and we don't use might very often. All right, so now you're going to put these words in the correct order to make sentences or to make some requests. You can go ahead and pause the video, try that on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. All right, number 1 is already done. May I go home early today? Number 2 would be, could I borrow your pencil? Number 3, can I go to the cinema with my friends? Number 4, may I pay the bill in cash? And number 5, can I borrow your car tomorrow? All right, so requests for permission. We can use can I, could I, or may I for permission. So can I go to the concert tomorrow night with my friends? And so the response can either be yes or no. So you can use can, could, or may for requests. So you're at a restaurant, so you'll be using these words. The first one is done for us. You need a menu. So you could say, can I have a menu, or could I have a menu? All right, so go ahead and see if you can make some requests based on these scenarios, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, you are not happy with the service, so you would probably want to use a little more formal. So you would either say, could I or may I speak to the manager? And number 8, you would like to order something sweet. So could I see the dessert list? Okay, you are thirsty. Could either, probably, well, can or could. It depends on how formal you want to be. I have a drink. You have finished your food and you want to pay. So may I have the check or bill? You could also use could if it's a more informal restaurant. And you love the meal and you want to come again next week. So could I make a reservation? All right, here you're going to finish off these sentences with either can, could, may, and one of these verbs. Again, you can pause the video, try this on your own, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, may I take a photo of you? Um, could I leave early today? I feel unwell. Can I invite my friend to your party? May I go to the cinema with Sally and Johan? May I borrow $70? I will return it next week. And really, any of these could work. It just depends on your relationship with the person that you're asking, depending how formal you want to be. So if this would be a child asking their parents, they would probably want to be a little more formal. Here, because you're asking for money, you want to be formal and very polite. All right, so you're at my apartment, we are good friends, and you want to use the phone. So you would probably say, can I use the phone? You want to give me your homework tomorrow, and I am your teacher. Um, so here, um, you would say, may I give you my homework tomorrow? Because it's more formal request from a student to a teacher. You want to come to my office and I am your boss. Again, may I come to your office? Probably the more formal. You're my friend. You want to borrow some money. So either can I or could I borrow some money? And you are in a restaurant. You need a chair for your friend, and there's an extra um, chair at my table. So since we don't know each other, you probably would say, may I take this chair, or even might I take this chair, because you're dealing with a stranger, someone that you do not know well. All right, so then we have requests with you as the subject. So again, what is Caitlin requesting? Would you open the door? Will you help me with my bags? Could you pass the pepper and salt? So this one would probably be, will you help me with my bags? Might also be, would you open the door if she's gotten, but here it doesn't look like she's at the door yet. So, all right, and then polite requests with you. We start with the modal verb, then you as the subject, then the verb, and then whatever the request is. So, can you pass the butter? Could you take my photo? Would you turn off the television? And will you lend me some money? Will is more common, it's saying in British English, although I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I mean, I think in American English we do ask, will you do something? It's not uncommon in American English. Okay, so match the request to the response. Can I give you my homework? No, you need to give, or my homework tomorrow. No, you need to give it to me now. Could I borrow your car tomorrow? Sorry, but it's at the mechanic's. Would you open the door for me? Of course. And do you want some help with your bags? And will you come to the cinema with me? Sure. Which film do you want to see? May I have a day off tomorrow? Well, I'm not sure. Did you finish all your work? Could I borrow some money? Again, I gave you $50 last week. Would you help me up the stairs? Of course, but you can also take the elevator. And can you pass the butter? Sure. And can you pass me a slice of bread? All right, so now make some requests using these words, putting in them in the correct order. Again, you can pause the video, try these on your own, restart when you're ready to check your answers. So, would you open the door for me? Can you drive me home tonight? 24. Will you pass me the sugar? 25. Would you talk more quietly? And 26. Could you take out the rubbish? All right, so now you can make a request using can, may, would, could, would, or will. So, Mom, can I watch television tonight? I finished my homework. You could also say, may I watch television tonight if you have a more formal relationship. Either would or could you take my bag for me, please? It's too heavy, probably depending on how well you know the person that you're asking. So, Dad, can or could you take me to football practice tonight? And may I please bring my girlfriend to your party on Saturday? I'm trying to study. Will you please turn off the music? My leg is very sore, so either can, could, or would you help me up the stairs? Again, depending on how close of a relationship you have with the person. I can't see anything. Can you turn on the light? And the food was excellent. Will you bring us the bill? So polite request using the phrase would you mind. This is if you want to be extra polite. Would you mind if I close the window? You're asking permission. Or would you mind closing the window? You're asking someone to do something. So the sentence structure is would plus the past simple and then the request. So would you mind if I ate the last piece of cake? Would you mind if I use your phone? Would you mind if I borrowed your bicycle? Would you mind if I didn't come tonight? And so we use the past simple, but the meaning is for the present or the future. All right, so we're going to match the request to the response. Would you mind if I open the window? No, go ahead. It's hot in here. Would you mind if I took the day off tomorrow? You can't. We are too busy at the moment. Would you mind if I didn't come to the cinema? Not at all. We can go next week. And would you mind if I borrowed Albert's car? Don't ask me. You need to ask Albert. Would you mind if I took that seat? No, go ahead. It's empty. Would you mind if I borrowed a cup of sugar? Of course you can, Betty. Are you making cakes again? Would you mind if I kept your book for one more week? Of course not. Do you like it? Would you mind if I didn't come to the party? What? No, it will be fun. Right, so asking someone to do something. So what is Peter asking? Would you mind carrying my bag? Would you mind helping me across the street? Or would you mind coming into my office? So this one is probably, would you mind helping me across the street? So asking someone to do something, the sentence structure is would you mind, then the ing verb, and then the request. So would you mind helping me set the table? Would you mind coming into my office? Would you mind cleaning up your desk? And would you mind finishing that report before tomorrow? And then with asking permission, remember we use would you mind if, and then the past simple. So would you mind if I used your bicycle? Okay, we're going to match again the request to the response. Would you mind opening the window? Of course not. It's hot in here. Would you mind turning down the music down? Oh, sorry if it was too loud. Would you mind doing the dishes? Again, I washed the dishes last night. And would you mind repeating that? I said please do the homework tonight. Would you mind buying some milk? No, I'll get some. Do we need anything else? Would you mind taking the next street on the right, Rogerson Street? Would you mind opening the door? Of course not. You have a lot of luggage. And would you mind helping me with my French homework? I can do that, but my French isn't very good. All right, so now you're going to make some requests with would you mind. You can either use would you mind plus the verb ing or would you mind if plus the past tense. So you want a friend to help you. You could say, would you mind helping me? You want to open the window. So would you mind if I opened the window? You want your teacher to open the window. Would you mind opening the window? And you want to take the day off work. Would you mind if I took the day off today or tomorrow? All right, again, making requests with would you mind. You want to leave work early. Would you mind if I left work early today? You want the teacher to repeat the question. So would you mind repeating the question? You want your children to set the table. So would you mind setting the table? And you want to borrow your mom's car. So would you mind if I borrowed your car? All right, so now change the sentences. So would you mind if I borrowed your computer? Could be, could I borrow your computer? May I borrow your computer? Or can I borrow your computer? Would you mind if I use your phone? Could I use your phone? May I use your phone? Can I use your phone? Would you mind if I took a 2-week vacation in September? Can I take a 2-week vacation in September? May I or can I take a 2-week vacation in September? Would you mind if I came and saw you tomorrow? So could I come and see you tomorrow? May I come and see you tomorrow? Or can I come and see you tomorrow? Would you mind if I took this seat? Could I take this seat? May I take this seat? can I take this seat? And would you mind helping me clean the house? Could you help me clean the house? Or can you help me clean the house? Would you mind fixing my computer? Would be, could you fix my computer? Or can you fix my computer? Would you mind looking after my children? Could you look after my children? Or can you look after my children? Would you mind posting this letter for me? Could you post this letter for me? Or can you post this letter for me? And would you mind finishing the lesson now? Could you finish the lesson now? Or can you finish the lesson now? And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.